Okay, let's get back.
You want to say no, but you're not sure why. See other things.
I have some people right there. I was
Yes, I know. I can tell the difference. There's a few announcements. First of all, tests. So, Yazinski is coming. Okay. Jimbo is it coming to test?
Yeah.
You guys have before the next test. After that, I don't accept it. Right? Be aware of that. The next test is coming up next weekend, not this one, the next one. So you have until next weekend to get this in. Hayuma?
I have it, I just have to submit it.
What?
I have them, I just have to submit it.
Sorry for that.
I have it, I just have to submit it.
I have it. Yeah. Virtual. The test? Yeah. Okay. That's the first thing. Second thing, be careful with your audio questions. First of all, no late audio questions are accepted. Some of you are handing in late audio questions. It doesn't count, right? Audio questions are due on the day, right, of the first lecture, right? After that is pointless. You need to, the point of the audio question is for you to be prepared for the reading, right? If you're gonna do it after the lecture, it's pointless. You don't have the basis, right, to understand neither the reading nor the lecture if you do the audio question afterwards. So no late audio questions. Some of you still not getting credit for the audio questions. Some of you still not giving sufficient answer, just so you know. Hopefully you know who you are. And if you have doubts, ask me. Okay, don't come late, right? A few of you missed today's point for the discussion because you were late. It's very important that you're on time so that you don't disturb the groups. Okay, and last thing, I have letting you know, I have the book C for you. So don't forget to pick it up because I will. This is the book. If you guys want to buy it at the author's discount, $35. Just let me know and I'll order one for you. Otherwise, there is one on reserve at the library. If you want to be cheap about this, you can. I understand cheapness. Okay. Any questions on anything I said or concerns? Okay. I have one more thing to say, but I forgot what it was. Yeah. Okay. Never mind. All right, let's get started. You know, I noticed today, I was going to tell you, it's so funny, we're all wearing black. Except,
This is great.
yeah, but before you had your coat, I'm also wearing white and blue. So
the coat is yellow.
Congratulations for standing out and not being like the mob. It's a New York thing, right? But it's wearing black. It's terrible. As soon as you see colors, people in the subway with colors, you know they're not New Yorkers. Like, you know they're tourists. So yeah, there's that. Okay. All right, let's go to page 7. So, before we get into text, which probably was a tough read for some of you, and probably was a tough read because you didn't listen to the introduction, right? Some of you were complaining this was a tough read. I looked and I saw you didn't listen to the audio lecture, right? The recorded lecture. This is why you're having a hard time. Okay, but yeah, it is a little more difficult. We're entering some more substantial stuff now, and it's going to be like that till the end of the semester. We're done with the appetizers. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to summarize what he's saying first, and then we'll go into the quotes and go over the same material but with quotes. That way you have a good idea where he's going, what is his argument, and then we can go and get you some quotes, and then of course some examples, right? Okay, so remember from the audio question, right? Kant is different from his contemporaries with regards to his views on morality. How is he different? Can someone give me the main difference between, yes, go ahead. Louder? Yes. Exactly. Excellent, right? Absolutely. Most moral philosophers, right, are drawing from Christianity to a certain degree, unconsciously or consciously, and believe that we are completely corrupt, right? That we are, we are not capable of moral behavior on our own. We need to be forced or seduced, right? This was everybody except Kant, who actually, unlike his contemporaries, unlike Christianity, even though he's a Christian, right? He believes, no, part of us is good. Part of us naturally longs for morality. Part of us is very much in tune, resonates with morality, right? And so the point of this book, right, is to help us become more aware of that part. Because remember, there's two parts. There's that part which is moral, which he calls reason, but we also have instinct, which is the selfish, wolf-like part, right? And usually the problem is not that we don't have reason, is that instinct is speaking too loud. It's taken over, right? Like a weed. So what he's trying to do in this book is not tell us what to do, because for him, we know what to do. Morality is in it. We know, all of us, we have that voice telling us what you're about to do is stupid or wrong, right? But for what he wants to help us learn is to become more attuned to that voice. What he's trying to describe here is what that voice sounds like, so that we can recognize it when it pipes up. I don't know about you, but when I'm faced with a moral dilemma, I have at least 3 voices in my head. Right? Do this, don't do that. Maybe if I did this, then, right? Meaning I have more, right? At least 10 voices going on, different reasons why you should do it or not do it. And it's very hard to pick out which of these voices is a true moral voice, right? Which of these voices is not morality dressed as, or rather, which of these voices is not the wolf dressed in moral garb, right? Because we can fool ourselves, right? Let me give you a good example. Will Smith, right? He's out up there saying, I want to defend women, right? I'm a moral person. My mom was battered by my dad, and now I don't want it to happen again, so I'm defending my wife, and I'm going to punch this comedian in the face when he slapped me, right? And it's morally just, according to him, right? He really is the wolf. It's Will Smith's massive ego, right? Parading as, oh, I'm defending women. Right? This is my take on this. I'm all with comedians. I'm so tired of the assault on comedians that has been going on. I mean, what's his name? I love that guy, Kevin Hart, right? Banned from the Oscars because of some joke, right? He made 10 years ago. I'm really worried, right, about comedians, about, how shall I put it? About comedy in this country, which is, we're shutting down comedians. What next? The media? What next? Right? I mean, if comedians are the last voice of truth in this country, if we're shutting down comedians and beating them up on stage, I don't know what's going to happen. Right? So, although I appreciate Will Smith, I love him very much, right? And I know it's nice to, flattering for a woman to be, someone. I would love someone to beat up someone like that. If my boyfriend or husband would beat up someone who made a joke, I mean, I would like that personally. But still, I'm trying to think, right? Was it really pure intent, as he was saying, right? That's the point. Was it really pure love that drove this action, or was there a little bit of ego, right? Or accumulation of stress, which he's been through a lot last few years, right? We know that. So, right? So, and we can fool ourselves into telling ourselves what I did was moral. And so if we're not able to really hear the voice of reason, we will continuously fool ourselves into thinking that what we're about to do or what we did is actually morally justified. So this is a really valuable book, because immediately you will know, oh, here I'm fooling myself. This is instinct speaking. This is instinct that is behind this action, masquerading as morality. Do you follow me? Okay, I hope y'all Will Smith lovers don't hate me now for my judgment. I have to stand up for comedians. I have seen the assault on comedians too much now. And really, comedians, they're the prophets of society. I know they sound awful, and sometimes their jokes are stupid. But for me, comedians are the last voice of truth. If we silence comedians, it's over, guys. It's over. There's no truth left, right? So punching a comedian in the face is not okay, or slapping them for that matter. Okay, now that's on YouTube. This is out there. Okay, good. Thankfully, no one will listen to a Kant lecture in public domain. Okay, good. So you got that, right? How we have many voices, and we can fool ourselves into thinking it's reason when it's actually instinct, right? Which is what I think Will Smith was doing when he justified his actions, right? Okay, so this is why he writes this book, right? So the main thing you want to write is that this book is not telling us what to do. It's not a bunch of guidelines. It's really helping us hear what our own voice of reason sounds like so that we can begin to recognize it, right, among all the other voices, and especially when instinct starts to dress up, right, when the wolf starts to dress up as moral voice, which it does very well. We're going to see that in a second when I do the example. Yes?
So is it like saying our voice of reason is based on the instincts that we have?
No. Voice of reason is based on reason.
Okay.
So, did you listen to the introductory
Yeah.
lecture? Okay. Okay. Reason is morality, instinct is the wolf, right? And we're going to see that. Okay, but it's hard to catch on sometimes, and to get it fast. Okay, so that's the point of the book, right? So today what we're going to find out is what the voice of reason does not sound like. That's all he's going to tell us in today's text. Only next time will we find out what the voice of reason actually sounds like. So we'll have to wait until then. And I'm going to give you a few dilemmas which you'll have trouble with because you don't yet know the end of the story, right? But I'm still going to throw them at you and we're going to ponder them. So this is the argument he makes, right? His main argument is to show that we actually are made for more than just happiness. That's the main argument he's making here, right? He's trying to prove to us that we are beings which have a higher purpose than just seeking out our own happiness. And the way he's going to do this, so, and by the way, this is important, right? Because people like Hobbes actually believe that all we seek is happiness. We're wolves. All we want is happiness. There's nothing good in us. So Kant really has to prove the case that there is something more in us, that there is a higher destiny than being just happy, right? So this is how he does it. Here's the line of the argument. He starts out by saying, okay, if we were made just for happiness, then we should not have been made with reason. Okay, that's the first point. If we were made for just happiness, we shouldn't have been made with reason. Why? Because reason, and I'll give you examples of this, systematically goes against your happiness. It's that voice always ruining everything, right? And so he deduces, because we have reason, then surely we have a purpose which is more than just happiness. Surely there is a purpose other, right? The fact that we have this faculty, which is not about happiness, is telling Kant there must be another destiny in addition to being happy. We also have a higher destiny, which is, he says, to be moral. Everybody follow the argument? Okay, so so let's go in the text now that you got the argument. Let's see how he says it. So starting on page 8. And I'm going to the third paragraph in the natural constitution. Who is there? Wave at me. 1, 2, 3. Okay, good. All right, so he begins like, so at least today you'll understand a couple sentences. Okay, in the natural constitution of an organized being, i.e., one suitably adapted to the purpose of life, let us take as a principle that in such a being no organ is to be found for any end unless it be the most fit and the best adapted for that end. Okay, so this is what this means. It says we are organized beings. So every organ has a purpose. There is no organ that doesn't have a purpose, correct? Please don't bring out the appendix. I don't want to hear about the appendix. I'm sure there's a purpose that we haven't figured out yet, right? But in general, right, every organ has a purpose. That's how we're made. We cannot imagine an organ with no purpose. And so he's saying, if we are made like this, and then he'll continue, and we have reason, then there must be some purpose associated with reason, right? We have a purpose beyond just happiness. He continues that. Now, if that being's welfare, preservation, welfare, or in a word, it's happiness, were the real end of nature, in the case of a being having reason, then nature would have hit upon a very poor arrangement in having the reason of the creature carry out the purpose. Here he's saying, if we were made just for happiness, and we are given reason, then nature did a bad job, because reason is really bad at finding happiness. Are you following? Let me say it again, right? If we were made for just happiness, and here we are, and yet we have this faculty called reason, then he says nature did a horrible job in making us, and in making us with reason, because reason systematically will go against our happiness. Yes?
You're basing this off the assumption that nature is ordered and not chaotic.
Yes. He starts out with that assumption. Absolutely. That's definitely an assumption he starts, which actually nobody disputes at the time. Everybody agrees that we are, that there is order and that there's no chaos. So he doesn't feel the need to argue for that because everybody at the time would agree with him. Absolutely. Okay, so let me give you an example of this. The fact that we're made with reason just messes up the whole happiness. So suppose you're, okay, just, let me make the right thing. That was hard. Let me just give a random example. Okay, you're studying for the test, big test tomorrow, and you're here studying. It's your last time. You got to study. You got to do this, right? And then your best friend comes in, and they're like, "Oh my God, you know, something just happened." Okay, this is not. I don't like. Let me make a simpler example. So best friend comes in and is like, "Oh my God, there's a party tonight, and that guy you've been, you know, kind of secretly lusting after is going to that party, and you need to come." And now here you are. So what would reason tell you? Yes, stay the course. An instinct? Does it think anything? Boom! It's like it's out of the right. So you see how reason is ruining that possibility for happiness, right? Okay, so that's an example of how systematically reason is going to come into, and here's another example, right? You're, we'll talk about this example later, but, so let me wait until later. Yeah, you have an example?
I have an objection to the previous example. While reason is telling you to stay and study, it's doing it for your happiness. You're choosing happiness later instead of happiness now.
No,
you're
you're
choosing
right.
a different kind of happiness.
I knew it was a bad example. Because actually, you're right. Both is instinct. They're both thinking about happiness, but the second instinct to stay and study is thinking in a more sophisticated way, but it's still instinct. So yeah, I was hoping no one would notice. I could stay with this easy example, but y'all are giving me a hard time. Yes.
Suicide. I think that's probably
Yeah. Go ahead. Say it.
Oh, it's just the you know, the example where like basically where, you know, a person who's not happy with his life would, you know, want to remove that pain via suicide, and them not doing it out of, you know, a morality where they don't want that burden on other people.
All right, that's a good example. I wanted a more mundane one, but yeah, you want to commit suicide. You would be happy to commit suicide, and reason comes and ruins your happiness by making you live. Right? That's one way. Is there a more mundane example? Yes.
But how did you experience that happiness?
Yeah, exactly. This is why it's not a good example.
I feel like a more.
Give me a better one. Yes, please.
You're walking down the park and you're happy that you're wearing brand new shoes because you're going up for a walk.
Okay.
And then you see that there's a child drowning in the nearby lake. You can either call 911 services, say there's a child drowning, do something, and go about your own day. You're happy that your shoes didn't get ruined. Or you could ruin your shoe. You're $500, $100, $1 shoe. But you, at the cost of your happiness, you rescue the child.
Okay.
What about happiness of virtue?
The what?
Happiness of virtue.
Yes, that's one thing actually Kant doesn't talk about, which I think he should personally. But there are sometimes virtues that won't make you happy. For example, ruining your life. This is a little example. You ruin your shoes, but some people, you know, like for example, infidelity, leaving a marriage, you stay, you quote unquote ruin your life. So there is not really the happiness of virtue.
You're making, again, that you're still coming back to the choice point decision, where you're making yourself miserable now for happiness later.
Are you though, if you're stuck in a bad marriage?
If you're stuck in a bad marriage and you leave, right, you're technically making a bad decision, right? Something that reason says you should leave.
No, reason wouldn't say that. We'll talk about that in a bit. See, go ahead. Okay, this is supposed to be an easy example. It'll get harder. Let me just continue. And then we'll get to more examples. So this, you can see easily, right? At least your example is the best, I think. You help somebody, you're ruining your shoes, your $200 shoes, for the sake of helping someone, right? Reason told you helps that. We'll see later how reason really sounds like. For now, we're a little bit big. It seems like reason pointing you to help that person versus your shoes. Now you've lost your happiness. That's the point, right? We'll get to more convoluted ones for those who like convolution. We'll be there in a bit, right? But for now, that one is supposed to be pretty simple, right? So let's continue reading. So he says this.
For all the actions.
Yes, for all the actions which such a creature has to perform with this purpose in view, and the whole rule of his conduct would have been prescribed much more exactly by instinct, right? Instinct is much better at getting us to find happiness. That's the bottom line. So if we're made just for happiness, we should have been made just with instinct. That's his point, right? Why we have reason then? And then he's saying, well, perhaps because we were made for more than happiness. Let me say again the argument, right? If we were made just for happiness, it would have been better just to make us with instinct. Then we'd be good. Instinct is great at finding the happiness, right? But he says, that's the second point, we were made with reason. And that tells him, well, maybe then there is a different goal for us than just mere happiness, right? Which he then will tell us is the goal of morality, but we'll see how that goes, okay? So, okay. So now you have a better idea. Here's, I don't think we need the other code for that. Let me give you now some examples, and then we'll talk specifically about that, right? Some examples so you start to see how instinct and reason work, how sometimes instinct masquerades as reason, right? And we won't yet know completely how to clarify these until next time, right? But for now, let's throw some out. Okay, here's a good one. I like this one. This is very, you can really gauge the moral temperature of the classroom. Okay, so suppose you've had a crush on someone a long time, and you're sitting in a bar, and all of a sudden that person walks in. They had been dating, right? A super hot girl or super hot guy, whatever you prefer, right? And this time they walk in alone. And your friends are like, hey, did you hear? Just 2 hours ago, they broke up with their boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever. And maybe now you should go up, you know, and make a move. This is your opportunity. That person is so hot, everybody gonna make a move within the next half hour. So this is your opportunity to be the first one in the line. So now you're sitting and you're gonna be having many voices, right? So I'm curious in the class, how many of you would go up and take that opportunity? It's 1, 2, 3, 4, okay? How many of you wouldn't go up? 1, 2, 3, okay. Now, we'll see who is really moral, because some of you will go up with reason, with in mind. Some of you will not go up with instinct. We'll see how that works. Okay, so for those who go up, let me see. It was Ramos, Epstein, Patakov, and Udeochu. Okay, Ramos, why would you go up?
Well, if I'm interested in that person, and I guess like there's an opportunity present for me, like even if it gets shut down, at least I'll take that opportunity to sort of like walk out to them and sort of like connect whatever way. I don't know. Like I'll see it as an opportunity, and if it gets shut down, it gets shut down.
An opportunity for you, right?
Yeah.
Okay, reason or instinct?
Instinct.
Instinct, okay, great. Anybody has a different reason for going up, or is the same? You have a different one? Okay.
It's pretty clear that this is instinct. We're doing it for ourselves. We're giving ourselves the opportunity. We're not really thinking about the other person, but it doesn't disregard the fact that there's nothing wrong with it.
No, true. I mean, instinct, by the way, doesn't mean you're doing something wrong, right? Like I'm watching a good TV show through instinct doesn't mean I'm sinning, right? It's like, so instinct in general, says Kant, is not bad. It's just bad when it starts to conflict with some moral issue. So, okay, you want to say, yes?
I would say like, and I'm like I said that I wouldn't go up, but
Okay.
I said because like what a sign said is like it's like this person just broke up with somebody 2 hours ago. Like they're not in the right space to even be like. If me going up, it's like I'm purely going up for my own selfish reason. I'm not even thinking about that person.
Okay.
Like I'm going for lust or like.
Okay, moral problem. Okay, there's a slight moral issue now that the person is not being respected in their process. You guys want to respond? I see y'all went up. So let's see, did you have that in mind? Go ahead, Patakov.
No.
Oh my God, how you okay.
I would
Okay,
disagree with her, and I would say that's like the perfect time to go up. That's when she's the most hurt and vulnerable. It's like the easiest time. That's like the easiest time to go up. Just saying.
Can we count this as a moral?
So I'm trying to who are you thinking about?
You're not helping yourself.
Yeah, you're right. Myself.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you said still on the level of instinct. This is the best moment to get this girl. She will fall quickly. Right? Okay, Udeochu, you want to help your friends there? To what? Okay.
You're telling me there's no alternative motive, ulterior motive?
Oh, you're thinking they might get hit on by a bunch of idiots and they're vulnerable. So wait, but okay, so you'll be the protector. Okay. No ulterior motive, like Epstein was saying? No?
Yeah, no, no.
Nobody believes you.
Yeah.
But
Don't worry, I
um,
believe you.
it's a mixture, right?
I do.
Okay. How would you diagnose Udeuchu? Reason or instinct?
Instinct.
Instinct.
Shrouded
No,
in
reason.
reason.
Instinct
Shrouded
shrouded
in
in reason.
reason.
Nobody's seeing the beauty of that action. Yes, let's
Yeah,
mix of both. Okay, I'll give you a mix. I'll give you a mix. Okay, now those who didn't go up, let's hear. So you can see how you can do the same action. This is interesting with thought, right? It's not the action that matters, the motive, right? You can do the same action out of reason or out of instinct, right? Udeuchu was the closest to reason, right? So notice for Kant, there's no moral action. There's only moral intention, right? Even if you do the wrong action for Kant, even if you end up killing someone, if your intent was pure, you're off the hook, right? For Kant, morality is the intention, right? Okay, now let's see the people who don't go up. Who are you? The people who all these virtuous people who didn't go up. Let's dig a little bit and see what was Schreiber. Go ahead. Okay, all right. So similar to Fierro, all right. A reason or instinct? Okay, reason.
Instinct.
Good. Who else? Yes, bless you.
Sort of balance that. Normally, it's worse to take advantage of the person who will also break, especially after like, especially if the relationship was like very intimate and very serious, and they go to a bar and drink their pounds away. They're much more prone to mistake than they would be normal.
Bear in mind, you are missing this opportunity. Are you guys cool with this?
You're missing.
You might never. This is your one chance. Are you thinking this through? I like Udeuchu because she's like, I'm gonna go up, and like create the right environment for this relationship to blossom. Right? So, are you sure, Schreiber, you want to miss this opportunity? Absolutely. Y'all. Who else
I
said
have
yes?
a question for you.
Wait. Let me finish with y'all pounce on them. it's coming. If what? Oh. But you could help him.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I mean, I'm not thinking like.
Okay. Is there anybody who wouldn't go up because they're worried about the boyfriend or the ex? Some people in the class they say that like they're like so let me add this. The ex is owns guns, is part of a gang, right? Would you go up still? Those of you guys who went up, you still go up, Epstein? You're not worried about this guy with guns? Anybody else wouldn't go up from the guys?
Yes.
I go up.
You still go up? God, this is courageous
Can I make a
people.
point that the people avoiding them are also doing it out of instinct?
Why?
Because they're all saying this is the worst time, which means it's the worst time for them as well. Because you're not going to build something on that point. You're just avoiding you're just waiting for a better opportunity.
He wants to respond to you. Go ahead.
And that's the only opportunity that you feel like you have is when you're vulnerable, but what's the point? You don't have.
I perfectly agree. It's selfish, but you're clouding your selfishness and morality.
Is he though? Because he's really not gaining anything from this, right? Because he doesn't have an opportunity. Like Udeuchu is great because she's creating the opportunity for the relationship in time to get right. That's smart. He's smart, right? In time, the friendship might blossom into right. He's straight up missing the opportunity.
She's just playing a longer game.
Yeah, but he's missing
He's
the opportunity.
waiting. She's playing a longer
He's
game,
not
and
though.
I'm
He's
just
gonna
rushing
lose
in.
it. He's gonna lose the opportunity completely. As I told you, within a half hour, she can have like 5 people around this
If
person.
she's willing to give herself up within a half
It's
hour,
not
then
worth
she's not
it.
hurting. No, then she's not hurting that bad.
Okay. All right. Are you seeing how? Hopefully, you're seeing a little. They're the last. Just to give you one more option that the other class. You guys are so virtuous. I'm sorry, I can't have the option didn't pop up. But in many other classes, the option pops up. I don't want to get any problems with the ex. A lot of people will say, "Yo, I'm not gonna." They just broke up 2 hours ago. This is getting into business that is not my business, right? Maybe in a month I can come up, but so a lot of people mention, right? Some people mention, is that so? Those people, reason or instinct?
Fear.
Reason or you say reason?
Both.
Who are they thinking of when they say, I'm not mingling in that business? I don't want no trouble.
Instinct. You're
Ah,
promoting yourself.
instinct, right? So notice, I want you to notice this. You can go up for reason, for rational reasons, and also for instinctual reasons, right? And you can stay sitting down for rational reasons and instinctual reasons, right? So it's the motivation, right? You have to make sure, says Kant, that you're in tune with a pure motivation. Whatever the consequence, what matters is your motivation. God bless.
Wouldn't it be sort of hard to like, because you're trying to show respect for the person? Like, sort of like what you said, that, you know, she's opening up a possibility for a relationship to blossom, but she's also showing that they can be respectful within the relationship.
So you're giving her full reason credit. Is that what you're saying?
Well, no, I'm still giving her a minute. There is some sort of underlying instinctual reason for it.
Yeah.
There.
I agree with the mix. Yeah.
You want to eventually establish a relationship, but there is a reason that you want to be in some space.
Yes.
And you want to respect.
Yes. And Udeocho is doing perfectly both, right? Which is very, very nice, very sophisticated reasoning. So absolutely, Udeocho is both instinctually going up, but also she's not moving. She's not going to make any moves. She's creating the time. That's still instinct, by the way, for the relationship to work, by the way, right? It's like, let me be smart about this, create the time. Do you see how it could be all completely instinct, right? So, go ahead.
Would you like to be treated that way?
For me?
Yourself.
If-
As in for everyone here.
That's a good question. Would I?
Because if you don't want to be treated the way you treat other people, you wouldn't do it.
Okay,
For me
that's a
personally.
pretty good way to do it. I don't know. Would y'all want someone you're alone in the bar, depressed? Would you want someone to talk to you? I don't know. I feel like I
Yes.
I wouldn't mind a nice conversation to boost up my ego. So me and Ramos, we go. We should get I'm just gonna go with Ramos. That's a good. Okay, we'll see. So, okay, this one is pretty clear. Now, let me give you one that you won't be able to resolve. This is a very tricky one, which you can only do next time. All right, back to the exam. Now, this is an exam, which is basically 80% of the grade. Some teachers are like that, right? It's an exam which you have to show up for. Teacher is complete, robot. They have no soul. Some teachers are like that, right? If you don't show up to the exam, it's over. Okay, you're studying like crazy the night before, of course, because you're procrastinating, right? And your friend comes in, and they are completely devastated. They just lost their father, let's say, and they are devastated. They're going through all kinds of emotions, and they tell you, I can't focus. They're usually a good student, but this time they're begging you, help me, let me cheat off of you tomorrow, because I can't focus, and if I fail this exam, I will lose. My GPA will flop, and I will lose the scholarship, the 4-year scholarship, the Excelsior, right, that I've been given, and I will therefore also have to pay everything back. This is a huge financial stress, right? Thousands and thousands of dollars they'll have to pay back. Okay, all right. How many of you let the person cheat? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yes. Okay, how many of you heartless ones in the classroom don't let the person cheat? Okay, 1, 2, okay, 3. Wow, this is cold-hearted.
Well, it's not heartless. If I can explain. Because
Explain, go ahead.
For example, if God forbid they lose their parent, right? They come to you and they ask for your help. You shouldn't don't be like, oh, I'll let you cheat, but help him try to at least learn the material. But if they cannot, if you cannot, try to find a way that they could still succeed in the material. Because if there's nothing, then okay, fine, I'll help them out.
Exactly, there's no other way. There's no other. They can't obviously, you could help them. That's the best way. They can't focus. They just lost their father, and the test is the next day, and the professor will give no extension. Now, do you?
Oh, then
You cheat, okay? You guys still?
There's
Wait. Go ahead.
I'd feel bad letting him cheat on me because then what if we both get grades? And I'd be bad.
Instinct or reason?
Because like,
Instinct.
what's the guarantee I'm gonna get a good grade? Then I'm gonna feel worse. His parents died and I just failed him a test.
How benevolent of you. If you cheat off of me, I might give you a bad grade. Yeah, I might get a bad grade. Okay, well, in that argument, instinct or reason? If you cheat off of me, you might get a bad grade, and I feel bad. A little bit, yeah, it sounds a little bit like reason. You're thinking of them, kind of, okay. How many, so let's go back. How many of you let them cheat, just wondering? Okay, and let's go over why, okay? Why would you let them cheat?
And I mean, I would let them cheat. I would probably try to save this amount.
You would what?
If you pay me, I'll let you cheat, I think.
Ooh, if you pay me, I'll let you cheat. Instinct or reason?
Instinct.
Pure instinct, Ramos. You're well anchored in the instinct. Okay, next. Who else? Yes.
I mean, I know myself. I know that if like I put myself enough to do this, I know I'll be able to pass it. So if a person pushes me and says, "Hey, I really need focus on you," I think they cheat. I'm like, okay, just don't make it look obvious. And then
Yeah, be smart. So who are you thinking of when you're allowing them to cheat?
I'm thinking of, well, it's a mix of both of myself. It's a mix of both myself. So I'm gonna have some sort of insurance that I will, be caught just because cheating is academic.
Okay, sure. And who else?
You want to make sure then the other person, because you understand the pain, and understand the growth, but you also want to see them succeeding.
Okay, good. Now notice, he's thinking of the other person's happiness. And for Kant, is that instinct or reason?
Reason.
Who thinks not? Who thinks that's instinct, to think of the other person's happiness? Actually, yes? Yeah, you do? Yes, you're right, right? Happiness, whether it's my happiness or the other person's happiness, is still instinct, guys. Write this down. This is very important. Happiness, whether it's my happiness or the other person's happiness, you're still on the level of instinct. So even though you're thinking of their happiness, you're still, you won't get this until next time. But for now, we know for sure it's not happiness. So let me give you an example of a clear example of thinking of the other person's happiness, how it could lead you into immoral action. Your friend is a gangster and you have a car and they want you to drive them to a bank so they can rob that bank. Now, it would make them happy if you would do that. Is it moral to do that?
No.
Okay, you see the problem? Okay, so
Yeah, you're just
just
giving your friend a ride.
you almost hopeless case over here.
Well, you never said that we're picking him up from the bank with the
He
stolen
tells
money.
you very clearly what he's about to do. Now, do you still do it?
Well, yeah, technically you're just still giving
Wait,
him a
why is he
ride,
doing-
but you're not
why
being
is he
involved in
doing
the
it?
robbery.
Why is he doing it? Because he needs money to anything. He needs money to pay rent. He needs money to buy food. He needs money to pay off his debts. So he won't get killed by the other gang members.
You know,
So
also
maybe you're not giving him happiness, maybe you're avoiding him pain.
In what sense? When you drive him or not?
When you drive,
Yeah, when you drive him, you're obviously working for his happiness, right? He wants you to drive him. He will be happier if he can pay his debts. He will be happier if he can pay his rent. So you see how thinking of someone else's happiness is not moral either for Kant. That's not the key. That's not the criteria, right? Okay, great. That was a great example. Let's see. Now, those who didn't let the person cheat, can you tell me a little bit why? Who were you? There were just a few of you. Go ahead. Yes, why?
why would I let them cheat? Why would I want my work on their paper instead of just
Okay,
me
fair
doing
enough.
my own thing?
Instinct or reason?
instinct.
Instinct. Why would I want them to take my work? The hell with it, right? I'm not happy when they steal my work, right? So the reason, so notice, do you see again?
It's not
You
even about
cheat or
happiness.
you don't cheat, depending on the motive, could be moral or immoral, right? So you're still in the instinct. Anybody else? Who else said they wouldn't let them cheat? Who else was it? Who didn't say anything yet? Okay. Now, so it's not clear, right? It's not clear why it's immoral yet, right? Because it sounds very normal. They need help. I'm sacrificing I'm risking, right? Getting caught, and I'm gonna help them. And it feels very moral, right? And yet Kant is still saying there's something off about it. And the way I can prove that is if you were given an alternative to cheating, how many of you would take it to help your friend? If you were given an alternative to cheating to help your friend, how many of you would take it? Okay, do you see how you're sensing this isn't ideal? That moment where you're sensing this is not ideal, that's reason. Now, we don't know yet why you're sensing that. We'll know that next time. But do you follow what I'm saying, right? So make sure, this is the bottom line. Make sure you write two things. Number one, happiness of others. So for sure, doing things out of sheer selfish happiness, that's immoral for Kant, right? If you're going to be doing something out of, now, if you're also doing something just to make the other person happy, doesn't necessarily make it moral either, right? So that's still instinct, right? And finally, right, what we're gonna find out next time, all of you, and this is so interesting, all of you felt a little bit off about the cheating, but you don't know why, right? We will find out next time. But right now, if you were given an alternative, all of you said, yes, I would take the alternative. So you're hearing the voice of reason telling you, this is not ideal, I don't like it, right? But we don't know yet why until we do the material next time, what the voice of reason actually sounds like, right?
Kant use it as like a compromise of like one's character or one's integrity.
Yes, you're on the right track, and we're going to see more precisely what that looks like, right? So for sure, there is a compromise of something which we call integrity, but what does that even mean, right? That's what we're going to find out next time, because we use words, we get feelings, right? Because we're naturally moral, so we know there's something that has to do with integrity, but we have not yet sat down and analyzed, what does it mean, integrity, actually, right? And we're going to do that next time. Okay, so now let's go. Any questions about this? Any further comments before I go into the text on love? Yes.
We're talking about morality and what's moral and not moral, but how can we really take a look at one book and follow an example from one person? Doesn't everybody in this room has a different sense of what's moral and immoral?
That's a good question.
Like for Epstein over here, like killing someone is immoral. Compared to me, I don't mind it.
Okay, yes, very good.
How would that?
Please mention that you're in the military, that's why you're saying that.
It's not even that, it's just an example. Between two different people. He would see it as immoral, I would see it as
talk
moral.
about that. This is an excellent question, right? Kant seems to be saying we all share the same moral sense, right? And he thinks that. Now let me explain what that means, right? For Kant, we differ when it comes to our views of happiness. That we differ on. Some traditions say should be patriarchal. Some traditions say should be democratic. Some traditions say we need a dictator. Some traditions say we need strict rules. Others say we need freedom. This is all having to do with our happiness as a society. When it comes to morality, however, for Kant, we all share the same moral sense. Let me give you an example. If you see somebody lying on the street, dead, murdered, even you, you're gonna feel a little bit uncomfortable, right? Like, I wish it wasn't happening, correct? Yes?
Yeah.
Hopefully. Anybody feel totally cool with this? Okay, you see what I mean? Even though sometimes, obviously, it's even at war, right? Let me get your name right. I will one day, I promise. Wierzynski, right? Even at war, Wierzynski, you see somebody die. Deep down, part of you wishes there was no war. Hopefully, I'm correct. Am I correct? War and peace is better than war. Wouldn't you agree?
Peace is better than war, but that's instinct, not morality.
Yes, we still have to think what morality is about. But the idea that the killing part is not instinct, because sometimes instinct will prescribe to you to kill.
It's
right?
not even only killing. It's either
Sometimes
murder,
morality will
murder,
prescribe you to
theft,
kill.
No, never.
or anything.
Never.
Any
That's
bad
simply not
action.
true.
Sorry, Wierzynski.
But anything, theft, murder, any bad action that is deemed bad by society. Now, is it technically just deemed by someone who has the money and power to
So
tell us
careful,
this
right?
is immoral, or is it deemed by everybody in a single room, or
Everywhere, he says, across the world, and this is not society teaching us. All of us deep down, let me finish. All of us deep down across the world, whether you're in the continent of Africa or Asia or Latin America or North America, you're gonna feel slightly uncomfortable when you see somebody dead on the street who shouldn't be dead. That's the idea. That's what Kant means by shared morality, right? All of us have an issue with that. Now, sometimes instinct will push us to kill, to protect ourselves, to protect our loved ones, whatever, but still Kant would say there is a moral problem there. This is very important. I'm going to come back to that.
I feel like personally, I view concepts like everybody has some sort of. I agree with Kant that yes, there is some sort of universal oneness of like everybody has like a sort of like moral perspective. I believe that it's the most basic baseline moral perspective that everybody has. Since whenever we talk about ethics or morality, it always dwells into semantics and trauma. It's each person throughout life will go through different experiences, different ideologies, different whatever. We can also, it could be stated as the fact that everybody has at least some sort of baseline similar moral view, such as, I don't know, drunk driving is bad. That is the most basic understanding of it. But then from that, it stems into semantics where it's, well, what if it's this, but this and that, and this and this and this. I feel like Kant is sort of almost making it too idealistic, too broad in the sense.
Okay, good. This is also very good. Let me give you an example, right? So here's where it gets complicated. We all agree killing is wrong, right? Now, what if you have to kill to protect a member of your family, right? Now, immediately we say, well, that's okay, right? And Kant would say, well, here's where you need to be very analytic, right? It's okay, of course, justified, instinct-wise, you're protecting their life, their happiness. But he says, we still have to realize that there is a moral issue here, even with killing for self-defense. This is very interesting, right? Because Kant is basically saying, you might be justified to kill, but there's still a moral problem with it. And you need to acknowledge that. Otherwise, you're going to be losing that sense, right? So in the case, for example, of which was interesting, of Rittenhouse, right, who shot these two people, society completely said it's okay. I mean, the court, right, they absolved him. And yes, it is okay in the sense that self-defense, legit and so forth, but morally, there's still an issue there, which sadly was not spoken of during that hearing, right? The judge didn't mention the moral weight, didn't even mention, you know, something terrible has happened, right? It acted like it was just fine, everything is okay, right? So I hope you're seeing that, right? That even, this is the point here, that killing is always wrong for Kant, even when it's justified, and not for Kant, for us, right? Even when it's justified. You can talk to Rittenhouse, I'm sure he will one day speak up about his own feelings, but even though he has been absolved, I am sure of it that he's carrying something with him, right? Even though we are justified to kill, there is still something that happens to us, that shifts in us, that is uncomfortable for us, right, in the process. And that's why Kant is saying killing, we believe, is always wrong, even if it is justified. Do you follow that? Epstein, go ahead.
This is inherently not really that true. People can kill for justified reasons and have no moral things influence them. For instance, a man in Israel shot a terrorist with a knife, killed him. Know what he said afterwards? We should have done it faster, or else he went to stab the other two people. There's no moral judgment. There's no moral things. He killed for a justified reason, that's it.
This is a problem.
The problem with Kant's pacifism is that while it can be done under extreme circumstances, see Desmond Doss for an example. He saved 100 men without carrying a weapon into battle. The problem is, even if you go with Kant's reasoning, that if you don't pick up the weapon yourself and do it, he still saved soldiers who were going to go back out and fight. Or you can say that they were fighting there for a good reason, and it doesn't matter if you're part of it or not, or if you feel it waiting on you or not. It needs to be done. Morality has to get pushed aside, and that is not true morality. Morality is where you stand and you say, here you draw the line. You don't go past it. It doesn't matter what needs to be done. If it needs to be done, then it's within the realm of morality.
Okay, you said a lot of things, but I'm going to focus on the issue of the person who killed and didn't feel anything, right? Would you like to respond to that?
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
I guess what I'm trying to I understand from what you're saying is that it is justified, self-defense is justified, and it's and you're saying that it should be we should think of morality when killing somebody in self-defense, as in okay, yeah, I was justified but not to lose my own humanity
That's
and keep my integrity. It's like, okay, this is still human life, and just to acknowledge it.
That's
Like
the
that
idea.
was just, it's something that should not happen, but I was forced to do it.
That's the
But,
idea.
yeah.
Absolutely. Because if we just make it, if we normalize it, right? This is very dangerous, not just for society, but for us, right? Because now we are shutting down the voice of reason, which is certainly going to be saying something at that moment, right? So that's the danger of it, right? And I'm very worried about that person that you mentioned. Yes, go ahead.
Sort of a general question. Let's say like there's two people who are not influenced anymore, and one of them killed the other. There's no more reason to find interested. What would Kant sort of point towards that? Like how would Kant try and explain that?
You mean that they just kill someone randomly?
Yeah, it's like there's no more reason. There's like nothing.
Yeah, he would say the moral has shut down, right? So the moral voice never shuts down completely, but the instinct has taken over, or the mental illness in this case sounds more like that, right? So that's the issue. So I want you make sure you
The
get
first
this.
part of morality is
Hold on. Please raise
self-preservation.
your hand when you want to talk. See, go ahead.
Oh, can I interpret it this way? Morality being your intent, or not intent, but as in like, you know, the thing that kind of drives you to do things, and for reason and reason and instinct to be the actions, essentially.
What do you mean?
So for reason, like, you know, for you to do this thing, let's say, I'm just gonna go back to the old example of, you know, keeping yourself alive, even at the expense of yourself. That is the action that, you know, is reason, and yourself, you know, the motivation behind that is morality.
Yeah, exactly, right? So the idea is this, right? Make sure you write this down, that the moral sense is always there, right? Even when you're justified in, for example, stealing because you need to feed your family, right? Or, you know, cheating on the test or letting your friend cheat on the test, right? Or killing someone in self-defense, right? Still your reason will still be uncomfortable with it, right? And the reason we know this is that if you could avoid it, you would, right? So there is something in you telling you, please find a different option, right? And this thing that's telling you, please find a different option, right, is the voice of reason. So, and this is so important. I think Piero understood very well that if you do something that's morally problematic and justify yourself that it's completely okay because it's justified, you are losing, not only society is in danger now, but you are in danger, right, of losing what she's calling your own humanity, right? So this is very important. We see this, by the way, with war veterans, if I may, Jim Jankowski, right? We see people coming back from war totally justified, right? This is defending the country. This is noble. This is, you know, we need to fight. That's how life is. But they will come back very often with trauma, moral trauma, right? Because of the killing, because their moral sense in a way has been disturbed by the situation, right? And so when we deal with veterans, I think we should not just give money and so forth, obviously, but there has to be some kind of spiritual counseling to deal with the moral trauma, not just the psychological trauma, but the moral trauma that occurs when we send people to war who have to kill and who are justified to kill. Still, even in the veterans, there is something in them felt that something was off, and they had to do it nevertheless. So there is a healing that has to take place, not just psychological, but moral healing has to take place. And I don't think we are equipped to really address that. And this is why the problems continue, right? So I think that's the point Kant is making, right? That we need to maintain this moral sense, even when we are justified to do something immoral. Yes, instinct will applaud you and be like, you need to feed your family, I need to protect my own. And yes, on the instinct level, it's perfect, but part of you will feel wounded by that action. And we need to remain sensitive to that voice if we're going to retain that part of us, which is what makes us, according to Kant, fully human, right? Which is what you were saying. Any questions on that? Does this make sense? Any issues? Okay. Now, quickly. Oh gosh, we have 2 minutes. We have 1 minute. Can I do the love part really quick? Can I take 5-10 minutes? Is that okay? Okay, we need to go. There's a text on love, which I will just summarize to you. This is, yeah, he actually wrote on love. Can you believe it? Page 12. Okay, I'm just going to summarize that it's the last paragraph of page 12. I'm going to summarize it and then I'm going to ask you a trick question. We'll see if you can answer it. Okay. 2 kinds of love, says Kant. Pathological, practical. Just write this down. Pathological love, practical love. Then you can read the paragraph. Pathological love, practical love. Okay, what does it mean? Pathological from the Greek pathos, P-A-T-H-O-S, Greek pathos, which in Greek doesn't mean sick or anything like that. It means passive. Okay, this is love that is passive. Happens to you, hits you. You have no control. Okay? And then we have practical love from the Greek praxis, P-R-A-X-I-S, praxis, P-R-A-X-I-S, which means action. Active love, coming from the will, coming from a decision you make, okay? These are the 2 kinds of love. The love that you're swept, right, kind of don't have control over, and the love where you choose to love, okay? Now, I'll give you an example of this. You are in a marriage, right? It's a pretty good marriage, it's all right. But then one day, after 10, 15 years of marriage, you have kids with that person and everything, enters in the office your soulmate. You know it's your soulmate. It's everything you have in common. You have missed out on this soulmate. It's decent marriage, but it's not your soulmate, right? Your soulmate enters. Now, let's see. What would instinct prescribe? What would reason prescribe? Okay, instinct is like, let's go to the soulmate. for the happiness of everybody, let's go to the soulmate. Okay, what would reason say? Yes?
Then you make a vow to this person.
You what?
You made
You
a
made a
vow.
vow, you're responsible, there's a question of integrity. We don't yet know exactly, it's still vague, but there's something pulling you to stay in the marriage, it's not right. So reason is pulling you to stay in the marriage. Even though you're not happy, in fact, for Kant, the less happy you are, the more moral your action is, right? So now, which one is the practical love? Which one is pathological love? When you're swept by the soulmate, is this practical or pathological love? Pathological, right? It's passive. You don't choose. All of a sudden, here you are falling in love with this person, head over heels. You didn't choose. It just happened. You come home. This is what people say, right? When they cheat on their spouse, like, man, it just happened. I don't know what happened. It just happened. Something took over, right? Pathological love, right? Okay, what does practical love look like?
To stay with them.
I choose, right? Now you're choosing to stay. It's active. It's not passive. I'm choosing to stay with this person. Now, here's the trick question. Which love is freer? Pathological or practical? How many of you think pathological love is freer? Let's see your hands. 1, 2. How many of you think practical love is freer? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, let's start with pathological. Why did you think? Are you afraid to be in the minority? Don't be. Why do you think pathological love is freer?
I'm not saying that it's right. Like I feel like if I was in this position, I wouldn't. Like it would feel really, really wrong to go in this direction. But in terms of being freer, as in choosing or like having like sort of gravitating to this person and sort of feeling like the need to want to be with them is more liberating.
Okay, it feels liberating to finally, I can be with my soulmate. I don't need to be stuck in this marriage. Being stuck in the marriage feels like a prison. Okay, fair enough. Go ahead.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I wouldn't go down this side of it. It's completely wrong, but it is like, I mean, it is a more free.
Feels free. Okay, good. Now, those about the practical love was freer. Why? So you can better that. Yes.
Because it's your choice.
And why is that free?
Because you're not under the control of your own desires.
Yes, that's what Kant would say. Right? Practical love is freer. Why? Because you're in control. You're not swept by some foreign emotion. You are in full control. You are calling the shots. You are the one who is making the decisions. You're not influenced by the outside. You're not influenced by your passions. You're therefore freer, paradoxically, by staying in the marriage and by leaving it. That's the word of the day. Yes. What? Yes, definitely. definitely. Because the other one, it goes and comes and goes according to your feelings, right? Your soulmate could stop being your soulmate after a couple months, right? So yes, that one is more focused, more centered, more strong. Okay, very good. All right, next time we're gonna find out what the voice of reason really sounds like. So hopefully you can find it by
Definitely
yourself.
doesn't sound like me.
It won't, trust me. Yes.
Priority is on what's reading stuff, like my
I mean, you can read, but it's something like you have
but I don't know. I can also watch the lecture. So, like,
2 seconds.
oh, yeah. Sorry, I forgot.
Let me finish that.